Today we're going to be talking about working on our still lifes, and the first thing we're going to do is value. Value is how light or dark something is. So I want you to take your paper, pick a colored pencil, I'm going to use green, and flip your paper over to where your name is. Okay. Once you have your name flipped over, I want you to draw a rectangle like this, and then I want you to draw 4 lines in it. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want you to write value. Here we go. V A L U E. Now, we are making a value scale, which is something that we work on a lot in 3rd grade, but we start here in 2nd grade, and we're going from light to dark. So the first box is going to be white. That is my lightest value, my lightest color. And then I'm going to take my colored pencil and very lightly color it in. You can always go darker, but it's hard to go lighter. So I'm going to very lightly do my first value. So I'm going very light with my first value, white, and then 1 color. We'll add more when we get to 3rd grade. Okay, then in my next box, I'm going to go just a little bit darker. Okay? And feel free to pause the video if you need more time to do your second value. Make sure you get the edges, just like we would when we do your real still life on the front. But I'm going from white, light, a little darker. Now I'm going to go a little darker than that. I want you to press down your marker, sorry, not your marker, your colored pencil, and it should be a little bit darker than the one before. Okay, you can always go back and darken it a little bit, but it's hard to get lighter. So go that way first. Okay, and then the last one should be the darkest color of all. So you can see with just 1 colored pencil, you can pretty easily get 4 different values. And next year, I'll have you do 5 different values, or even 6. So we are starting with an introduction to value. But I can see this is called a value scale, where I go from light to dark. Okay. Go ahead and pause the video here. Put down your pencils, put them in your colored pencil box, and turn your eyes to the board. Okay. Now you have your pencils off. We're going to talk a little bit about using colored pencil and value in your still life that you did with me previously. We talked about Cezanne. You watched the video about Cezanne. Now we're going to add a little bit of color. So I might start with my orange here. Cezanne liked a bold outline, so I'm going to start with kind of a bold outline. Then I'm going to go through and kind of use my lightest value. And I'm going to think about where would the shadows be, okay? The shadow is going to be towards the bottom here. And when I'm shading this, I am using kind of a curved line to show that my orange is curved. I start off with a medium shadow, and then on the edge, I get a little bit darker. Now, if you want to go back in and put your little textures, like your dots on your orange, you're welcome to do that. If you have a little green spot on it, you're welcome to do that, okay? But what I'm doing is I'm starting with my outline. Let me grab a color for my apple here. I'm starting with a nice outline, okay? I'm starting with a light value. Okay, I'm going to go through and kind of add in a light red over the entire piece, this entire section. I'm watching my edges to make sure I'm staying in the lines. And then I'm going to go through and think about where would my shadow be. Well, my shadow would definitely be right here where the stem's going to be. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to press just a little bit harder. And then if I want to, I can press a little harder than that. There's going to be a shadow right here. My orange is in front. It overlaps on top of my apple. So it's going to be a little bit darker here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to press a little bit harder right here. And the darkest spot will be right where those two things touch. Okay. There's going to be a shadow right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my shadow down in the bottom here. And again, My apple is rounded, so I'm going to use kind of a rounded shadow as I go. I'm going to shade in all of my objects. I'm going to do my apples. I'm going to do my oranges. If there's other fruit, you're going to do that. The fruit should be realistic colors. It should be the greens and reds and yellows and oranges that we saw at the time. The bowl can be any color you want. It can be blue, it can be green, it can be orange. You can pick what color you want for your bowl. The table can be any color you want. But I will tell you that I want to see everything colored in. Nothing should stay white. And I want to see you using your values. I want to see you thinking about trying out some shading on this piece. So if this is my bowl, I'm going to start with a light value. And then after I do my light value, you see I'm kind of moving with the shape of the bowl, really curved on the edges, and it goes more straight up and down as I go to the middle. I'm really thinking about laying in a light value first. And then once I get a light value, I'm going to do a darker value where I would see my shading, okay? The shadow on the table should be a darker color of the shadow here. So if my table is brown, there should be a dark brown here, okay? If my table is green, it should be a dark green right there. And I'm not switching colors. I am really just using my colored pencil and pressing lighter or darker to shade in your whole picture. When you are done, turn it in. I will be grading these. I will be looking at them. I need you to do your best and take your time. I know you can do it, second grade. Take your time and do good work.